Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on healthy versus unhealthy relationships and domestic emotional abuse. My name is Dr. Deborah Wilder, and I've been working with individuals, couples, and families, helping them navigate life's challenges for over 30 years. And today we're going to explore the key characteristics that distinguish healthy relationships from unhealthy ones and understand the nature and impact of emotional abuse in domestic settings and discuss strategies for moving toward healthier relational dynamics. Let's begin by defining what constitutes a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is a partnership where both individuals feel respected, valued, and supported. It's built on mutual respect where each person honors the other's boundaries, opinions, and feelings. Trust is another cornerstone of a healthy relationship, and this involves being able to rely on each other, feeling safe, and knowing that your partner has your best interest at heart. Open communication is essential, allowing both individuals to express their needs, desires, and concerns openly and honestly without fear of judgment or retaliation. This communication fosters emotional intimacy and understanding, which are really important for long-term relationship satisfaction. In addition, equality is very important in a healthy relationship. Both partners should have an equal say in decisions, share responsibilities, and feel like their needs and desires are equally important. Finally, independence is respected in a healthy relationship. Here, each partner maintains their own identity, has personal interests, and feels free to pursue their goals and friendships outside of the relationship. This autonomy prevents codependency and allows the relationship to be a source of support rather than a constraint. And there are key characteristics of healthy relationships, and I'm going to go over some of them right now. Respect. This means recognizing each other's autonomy, valuing each person's opinions and feelings, and treating each other with kindness and consideration. Respect allows for differing viewpoints and encourages growth and understanding within the relationship. Trust. Trust is built over time through consistent, honest communication and actions that demonstrate reliability. In a trusting relationship, both partners feel safe and secure, knowing that they can rely on one another and that there is no fear of betrayal. Communication. Open, honest communication involves actively listening to each other, expressing feelings and needs clearly, and addressing conflicts constructively. This creates an environment where both partners feel heard and understood, reducing misunderstandings and fostering intimacy. Emotional intimacy is a fundamental aspect of healthy relationships. This involves a deep sense of closeness, trust, and connection that allows both partners to feel safe, sharing their innermost thoughts, feelings, and experiences. This type of intimacy fosters mutual understanding and empathy, creating a bond that strengthens the relationship through open communication and vulnerability. Emotional intimacy is essential because it helps build a solid foundation of trust and support, allowing each partner to feel valued and understood. By cultivating emotional intimacy, couples can navigate challenges together, deepen their connection, and maintain a fulfilling and resilient relationship. Equality is another characteristic. Equality in a relationship means that both partners are seen as equals, with neither having power over the other. Decisions are made together and both individuals feel equally valued. This balance ensures that both partners contribute to and benefit from the relationship. And finally, independence. While partners support each other, they also respect each other's independence. This includes having personal time, space, and the freedom to pursue individual interests and friendships. Healthy relationships enhance one's life without consuming it, allowing for personal growth and fulfillment outside of the partnership. In contrast, an unhealthy relationship lacks some or all of those positive qualities. It often involves a power imbalance where one partner exerts control or dominance over the other. This could be through overt methods like intimidation and threats or through more subtle means such as manipulation and guilt tripping. Unhealthy relationships frequently involve poor communication where partners do not openly discuss their feelings. This leads to unresolved conflicts and resentment. There may be a lack of respect where one partner disregards the other's needs and feelings, leading to feelings of worthlessness and insecurity. Such relationships can also be marked by emotional dependence or codependency, where one or both partners rely excessively on the other for validation, identity, and self-worth. This dependence can prevent individuals from maintaining their own identities, leading to feelings of entrapment and loss of self. Here are some common signs that a relationship may be unhealthy. Control. One partner might try to control the other's behavior, decisions, or social interactions, and this can involve dictating what the other person wears, who they can see, or what they're allowed to do. Manipulation. Emotional manipulation includes tactics like gaslighting, where the abusive partner makes the victim doubt their own memories, perceptions, or sanity. This psychological manipulation is intended to make the victim more dependent on the abuser and less likely to challenge their behavior. Isolation. An abuser might isolate their partner from friends, family, and other support systems to increase their dependency and reduce the likelihood of seeking help or recognizing the abuse. Criticism and belittling. Constant criticism, belittling, or demeaning remarks undermine the victim's self-esteem and confidence, making them feel worthless or incapable of making decisions. And then we have avoidance and denial. An unhealthy relationship often involves avoidance of issues and a refusal to address or acknowledge problems. Instead of constructive communication, conflicts are ignored or escalated, leading to ongoing tension and unresolved anger. So what is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse is a subtle yet destructive form of abuse that involves the consistent use of words, actions, and behaviors to control, intimidate, or demean a person emotionally. Unlike physical abuse, emotional abuse leaves no visible scars, which makes it harder to recognize and often more challenging to prove. However, its effects can be just as damaging, if not more so. Emotional abuse includes behaviors like verbal insults, criticism, humiliation, and threats. It can also involve more covert tactics, such as gaslighting, where the abuser manipulates the victim into doubting their reality or perception, making them feel confused or crazy. This type of abuse can gradually erode a person's sense of self-worth and autonomy, making them feel powerless and trapped. Domestic emotional abuse often follows a repetitive pattern known as the cycle of abuse. Understanding this cycle is crucial to recognizing the dynamics of an abusive relationship and the difficulty victims face in breaking free. This cycle typically involves 4 main stages. The first one is the tension building stage. Here, this phase is characterized by increasing tension, arguments, or passive-aggressive behavior. The abuser may become more irritable or demanding, and the victim may feel like they're walking on eggshells, trying to avoid conflict or appease the abuser to prevent escalation. Next comes the explosion phase. Here, the abuser releases built-up tension through verbal assaults, manipulation, or emotional outbursts. This can involve yelling, blaming, humiliation, or other forms of psychological abuse that degrade the victim's sense of self-worth. Now we're coming to the reconciliation phase. Here, after the explosion, the abuser may apologize, offer excuses, or promise to change. And then finally, we have the calm phase. This is where things sort of go back to normal. The abuser might become more affectionate, loving, or overly attentive in order to regain the victim's trust. And this phase creates confusion and hope in the victim, making them believe that the abuse is over and that things will improve. The cycle then repeats, often increasing in frequency and intensity over time. Domestic emotional abuse can manifest in various forms, each aimed at controlling or harming the victim emotionally. Let's start by exploring verbal abuse and gaslighting. Verbal abuse involves using harmful language to intimidate, belittle, or dominate a partner. This can range from shouting and name-calling to making demeaning remarks and constant put-downs. The purpose of verbal abuse is to make the victim feel inferior, scared, or worthless, creating a dynamic where they doubt their value and capabilities. Gaslighting is a covert form of psychological manipulation where the abuser deliberately makes the victim doubt their reality or sanity. By repeatedly lying, denying facts, or twisting the truth, the abuser creates confusion and self-doubt, leading the victim to question their memory and perceptions. This tactic can make the victim heavily reliant on the abuser for a sense of reality. Next, we'll discuss isolation, manipulation, and threats and intimidation. Isolation is a strategy where the abuser cuts the victim off from friends, family, and social circles. By restricting their social interactions or controlling their communication, the abuser limits the victim's support system, increasing their dependency and reducing their access to external perspectives or help. Manipulation involves covertly influencing the victim's emotions or decisions to benefit the abuser. This could be through deceit, emotional blackmail, or feigned affection, making the victim feel obligated to comply with the abuser's demands. The aim here is to confuse or coerce the victim into acting against their best interests. Threats and intimidation use fear to exert control over the victim. This can involve threatening to harm the victim, their loved ones, or themselves, or threatening to reveal sensitive information. The goal is to create a climate of fear where the victim feels too frightened to resist or leave. Now let's focus on financial abuse and blaming and shaming. Financial abuse is a tactic where the abuser controls the victim's financial resources to create dependency. This can involve preventing the victim from working, controlling all financial decisions, or withholding money for basic needs. By restricting the victim's financial independence, the abuser makes it harder for them to leave the relationship or seek help. Blaming and shaming consist of making the victim feel responsible for the abuser's behavior or the problems in the relationship. The abuser might accuse the victim of being the cause of their anger or belittle them for perceived faults. This tactic undermines the victim's confidence and self-worth, making them feel guilty and undeserving of support. Withholding affection is an emotional tactic where the abuser purposefully denies affection, love, or attention in order to punish or control the victim. This can create feelings of insecurity and unworthiness, making the victim more likely to seek approval and conform to the abuser's demands. Emotional neglect involves the abuser failing to provide emotional support, empathy, or validation. The victim's feelings, needs, and achievements are ignored or dismissed, making them feel invisible and very unimportant. This neglect can lead to emotional exhaustion, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. Controlling behavior is when the abuser dictates the victim's actions, choices, or freedoms. This includes monitoring their movements, dictating their appearance, or deciding whom they can associate with. This creates an environment where the victim feels powerless and unable to make their own decisions, fostering a sense of helplessness. Finally, let's look at using sex as emotional abuse, public humiliation, and other tactics that exert control. Using sex as emotional abuse involves manipulating or coercing the victim into sexual acts, withholding sex as a punishment, or using sexual behavior to demean the victim. This form of abuse exploits intimacy to control, humiliate, or hurt, leaving the victim feeling violated and powerless. Public humiliation is when the abuser shames or embarrasses the victim in front of others to undermine their self-confidence and control their behavior. This can involve mocking, spreading rumors, or disclosing private information, making the victim feel degraded and exposed. Other tactics include dismissiveness and invalidating feelings, where the abuser trivializes or ignores the victim's emotions, and jealousy and possessiveness, where extreme jealousy is used to justify controlling behavior. Additionally, using children as manipulation involves using the children to control or guilt trip the victim. Each of these tactics is designed to undermine the victim's sense of self and autonomy, making it harder for them to break free and seek help. Recognizing these behaviors is critical to understanding the dynamics of emotional abuse and taking steps toward recovery and independence. One of the most significant hallmarks of an unhealthy relationship is the presence of manipulation and control. These tactics are often subtle and can be challenging to recognize, but they're designed to exert power over a partner, undermining their autonomy and sense of self. Let's explore what manipulation and control look like in these relationships and how they impact individuals. Manipulation in a relationship involves using psychological tactics to influence someone's behavior or emotions for the manipulator's benefit. Manipulative behaviors often include guilt tripping, gaslighting, and playing the victim, or making someone feel responsible for the manipulator's emotions and actions. For example, a manipulative partner might say, "If you really love me, you do this for me," making the other person feel obligated or guilty for not complying. Gaslighting is a particularly insidious form of manipulation, where the abuser makes their partner question their reality, memory, or perceptions. Over time, this tactic erodes the victim's confidence in their judgment and sanity, making them more dependent on the abuser for a sense of reality. For example, an abuser might insist, "I never said that, you're imagining things," when confronted about a hurtful comment, leading the victim to doubt their memory. Control in a relationship is about domination and reducing the other person's independence and self-esteem. Controlling behaviors might involve monitoring a partner's movements, dictating who they can see or talk to, or controlling finances to limit their freedom. An abuser might check their partner's phone or emails, demand access to their social media accounts, or isolate them from friends and family, creating a sense of dependence and preventing them from seeking outside support. These tactics are all about power and domination. By manipulating and controlling, the abusive partner seeks to maintain power over the victim, ensuring that they remain submissive, dependent, and isolated. The impact of these behaviors is profound. Victims often feel trapped, confused, and powerless, leading to a loss of self-confidence and independence. They may struggle to trust their perceptions and doubt their ability to make decisions, creating a cycle of dependency that keeps them in the relationship. Recognizing manipulation and control is the first step toward breaking free from an unhealthy relationship. It's essential to understand these behaviors are not about love at all. Gaslighting is something that happens so often in emotionally abusive relationships that I thought it was important to go into much greater detail here. Gaslighting is one of the most damaging forms of emotional abuse in unhealthy relationships. It's a manipulative tactic where an abuser makes their partner question their reality, memory, or perceptions, ultimately leading them to doubt their sanity. The term gaslighting comes from a play that was written in the 30s, and it was made into a film called Gaslight in 1944. It's a film in which a husband manipulates his wife into thinking that she's losing her mind by making subtle changes in their environment and then denying those changes when he's confronted. What does gaslighting look like in a relationship? It often starts subtly, with the abuser denying things they've said or done, minimizing the victim's feelings, or twisting facts to confuse the victim. For example, an abuser might say, "You're too sensitive, that never happened," or "You're remembering it wrong." Over time, these small lies and denials add up, causing the victim to doubt their memory and perception. Gaslighters may also use phrases like, "You're crazy," "You're imagining things," "No one else will believe you," to further erode their partner's confidence in their ability to perceive reality accurately. The goal of gaslighting is to make the victim question their own judgment and depend more and more on the abuser for a sense of reality. The effects of gaslighting on the victim can be profound and long-lasting. One, there's a loss of self-trust. The constant denial and manipulation make the victim doubt their own thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. They might start to believe the abuser's narrative over their own experiences, which can lead to a loss of trust in themselves. Then there's confusion and disorientation. Victims of gaslighting often feel confused and unsure about what is real. This disorientation can make them question their sanity and wonder if they're truly remembering events correctly or if the abuser's version is correct. Emotional distress. The ongoing manipulation can lead to anxiety, depression, and a sense of helplessness. Victims may feel like they're walking on eggshells around the abuser, constantly second-guessing themselves to avoid confrontation. Then there's the increased dependence on the abuser. As the victim's confidence in their judgment erodes, they may become more dependent on the abuser for validation and decision-making. This dependency makes it harder for the victim to leave the relationship or seek support. And then there's isolation. The confusion and self-doubt caused by gaslighting can make the victim withdraw from friends, family, and supportive networks. They may fear that others won't believe them or think that they're overreacting, leading to further isolation. So, gaslighting is a powerful tool of control that can make victims feel trapped, alone, and dependent on the abuser. Recognizing the signs of gaslighting is crucial for anyone experiencing this form of abuse. It's important to remember that gaslighting is not a reflection of your reality or worth. It's a deliberate tactic used by an abuser to exert power and control. Isolation and social withdrawal are common tactics used in emotional abuse to control and manipulate a partner. In abusive relationships, isolation is a deliberate strategy by the abuser to cut the victim off from their support network, which includes friends, family, and other social contacts. This tactic increases the victim's dependence on the abuser and makes it more difficult for them to seek help or recognize the abuse. How does isolation happen in abusive relationships? Well, it begins usually very subtly and can escalate over time. The abuser might start by discouraging the victim from spending time with friends or family, perhaps by saying, "I just want to spend more time with you," or "Your friends don't really care about you like I do." At first, these comments might seem like expressions of love or concern, but they are often the first steps toward cutting the victim off from external support. As the relationship progresses, the abuser may become more controlling, demanding to know where the victim is at all times, or insisting that they don't go out without them. They might criticize the victim's friends or family, suggesting that they're a bad influence or that they truly don't care. In some cases, the abuser might even monitor communication such as phone calls, texts, or social media to limit the victim's ability to reach out to others. The effects of isolation and social withdrawal on the victim can be severe and multifaceted. There's increased dependence on the abuser. With fewer people to turn to, the victim becomes more reliant on the abuser for emotional support, social interaction, and even basic needs. This dependency makes it harder for the victim to leave the relationship, as they may feel that they have nowhere else to go or no one else to turn to. There's a loss of self-esteem and identity. When cut off from family and friends and social activities, victims may begin to lose their sense of self. They might start to see themselves only in the context of the abusive relationship, believing that their worth is tied to the abuser's approval or disapproval. Then there are feelings of loneliness and hopelessness. Isolation often leads to intense feelings of loneliness and hopelessness. Victims may feel abandoned by their loved ones, even if those people have tried to help. This loneliness can deepen depression and anxiety, creating a cycle where the victim feels more and more trapped. Decreased ability to seek help. With reduced access to a support network, victims are less likely to seek help or share their experiences with others. They might fear that others won't believe them or that the abuser will retaliate if they try to reach out. This lack of support makes it harder to break free from the abuse. Then there's the heightened risk of further abuse. Isolation makes it easier for the abuser to exert control without interference from others. Without outside perspectives, the victim may internalize the abuser's narrative, believing that they are the problem or that they deserve the abuse. Emotional neglect is a form of emotional abuse where one partner consistently fails to provide the attention, affection, and emotional support that the other partner needs. This neglect is often deliberate and serves as a powerful tool for control and manipulation, leaving the victim feeling unseen, unheard, and unimportant. What does emotional neglect look like in a relationship? Well, it can take many forms, such as consistently ignoring a partner's feelings, withholding affection, or refusing to engage in meaningful communication. An emotionally neglected person might hear things like, "I don't have time for your problems," or they may experience a partner who is emotionally unavailable, dismissive, or indifferent to their needs and feelings. The impact of emotional neglect on an emotionally abused person can be profound and long-lasting. There's low self-worth. When someone's emotional needs are ignored or dismissed, they may begin to believe that they're not worthy of love and attention. This can lead to a significant decrease in self-esteem and self-worth, making them more vulnerable to further abuse and manipulation. Feelings of loneliness and isolation. Emotional neglect creates a deep sense of loneliness as the victim feels emotionally disconnected from their partner. They may feel isolated even when physically close to the abuser, leading to feelings of emptiness and despair. There's increased anxiety and depression. This constant lack of emotional support can lead to anxiety and depression. The victim may feel trapped in a cycle of hopelessness, believing that there is no one to turn to and no way out of the neglectful relationship. Then there's self-blame and guilt. Often, an emotionally neglected individual will internalize the neglect, believing that they are at fault for their partner's lack of attention or affection. This self-blame can make it hard for them to recognize the abuse and seek help. And finally, there's difficulty trusting others. Over time, emotional neglect can make it challenging for someone to trust other people, even in future relationships. They may fear that their needs will never be met and withdraw emotionally as a form of self-protection. Verbal abuse is a prevalent form of emotional abuse where an individual uses words to manipulate, control, or harm their partner. Unlike physical abuse, verbal abuse leaves no visible scars, but its effects can be deeply damaging and long-lasting. It often involves insults, name-calling, threats, humiliation, or constant criticism designed to degrade a person's self-esteem and sense of self-worth. What does it look like in a relationship? It can manifest in many ways, including insults and name-calling, using derogatory terms or harsh language to belittle or demean a partner. Phrases like "you're stupid" or "you're worthless" are common examples of this tactic. Threats. Using fear to control behavior such as threatening to leave, harm the victim, or hurt loved ones. Criticism and blame. Constantly criticizing a partner's actions, choices, or appearance and blaming them for issues in the relationship, creating a sense of inadequacy and self-doubt. Yelling and intimidation. Raising one's voice to intimidate or assert dominance, making the victim feel scared or powerless. The consequences of verbal abuse on the victim can be profound and enduring. One is that there is an erosion of self-esteem. Constant verbal attacks make victims doubt their abilities and worth, leading to diminished self-confidence and self-esteem. Over time, they may come to believe the negative things being said about them. Anxiety and depression. The fear and stress of constant verbal assaults can lead to anxiety and depression, as the victim feels trapped in a hostile and degrading environment. Emotional trauma. Verbal abuse can cause significant emotional pain and trauma. The victim may experience feelings of shame, guilt, and humiliation, leading to emotional withdrawal or a sense of hopelessness. Chronic stress and health problems. The ongoing stress of verbal abuse can contribute to physical health problems such as headaches, high blood pressure, and digestive issues due to the body's prolonged responses to stress. And difficulty trusting others. After experiencing verbal abuse, victims often find it challenging to trust other people, fearing judgment or criticism. This can hinder their ability to form healthy, supportive relationships in the future. Financial abuse is a form of control in emotionally abusive relationships where one partner manipulates or restricts the other's access to financial resources. This type of abuse aims to create dependency and limit the victim's ability to leave the relationship. What does financial abuse look like? Well, it can take on many forms, such as controlling finances. The abuser may control all household finances, monitor spending, or limit access to bank accounts and credit cards, effectively giving the victim little or no financial autonomy. Sabotaging employment is another example. The abuser might prevent the victim from working, sabotage their job, or interfere with their ability to maintain employment, making them financially dependent on the abuser. Withholding money. The abuser may give the victim an allowance and force them to account for every penny spent, or outright deny them access to money for basic needs. Another example would be accumulating debt in the victim's name. The abuser might use the victim's credit cards or take loans in their name without consent, leaving them with a damaged credit score and financial burden. The impact on financial abuse is significant. It creates a sense of entrapment, making it extremely difficult for the victim to leave the relationship due to financial dependence. The stress of financial instability can lead to anxiety, depression, and a loss of self-worth. Now I want to talk about the impact of emotional abuse on our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Emotional abuse can have profound and long-lasting effects on an individual's mental, physical, and emotional well-being. So victims often experience a range of emotional and psychological issues that can include anxiety and depression. Constant exposure to negative and harmful behaviors can lead to feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness, and severe anxiety. The victim may feel trapped in a situation with no way out, and that will lead to depression. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Many victims of emotional abuse develop PTSD, experiencing flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety related to their experiences. They might also feel on edge or hypervigilant, always anticipating the next episode of abuse. Low self-esteem and self-worth. Constant criticism, belittling, and manipulation erode the victim's self-esteem. They may start believing the abuser's negative statements about them, which can lead to self-doubt and a lack of confidence in their own abilities and worth. Chronic stress and health problems. The stress of living in an abusive environment can lead to physical symptoms such as headaches and stomach problems and chronic fatigue. Long-term stress can also contribute to more serious health issues such as heart disease. Difficulty trusting others. After experiencing emotional abuse, victims often find it challenging to trust other people, even in future relationships that are healthier. They may fear being hurt again, leading to difficulties in forming new relationships or fully trusting friends and family. These impacts highlight the need for early recognition and intervention in cases of emotional abuse in order to prevent further harm and begin the healing process. Breaking the cycle of domestic emotional abuse is a challenging but vital journey toward reclaiming your autonomy, your self-worth, and your well-being. The first step is recognizing that emotional abuse is never your fault and understanding that you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. Here are some key steps to help you break the cycle. Number one is to recognize the abuse. Awareness is crucial. Identify the signs of emotional abuse and acknowledge that these behaviors are harmful and unacceptable. Understanding this is the foundation for change and helps you see the value in yourself. Number two, seek support. Reach out to trusted friends, family, or professional counselors who can provide support and validation. A supportive network is essential for countering the isolation of abuse and gaining strength and clarity. Number three, prioritize self-care. Engage in activities that nurture your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Self-care isn't just a luxury. It's not selfish. It's a necessity. Taking care of yourself through hobbies, exercise, rest, and mindfulness can help rebuild your strength and resilience, empowering you to make positive decisions. Number four, establish boundaries. Setting and maintaining healthy boundaries is really important in order to protect your emotional space and your self-respect. Clearly communicate what behaviors are unacceptable and stand firm in enforcing these limits. This act of setting boundaries is empowering and helps diminish the abuser's control over you. I will say that establishing boundaries in an emotionally abusive relationship is a big challenge. It's not possible with every relationship, but it is a big challenge and it is possible sometimes. Number five, create a safety plan. If you're planning to leave the relationship, have a safety plan in place that includes safe locations, essential documents, and emergency contacts. Being prepared can provide a sense of security and reduce the risks associated with leaving an abusive environment. Number six, embrace empowerment. Empower yourself by reconnecting with your strengths, passions, and values. Remember that you have the right to make choices that prioritize your safety and happiness. Access resources like local organizations, hotlines, and shelters that offer support, guidance, and tools to help you regain control over your life. And I've got a couple of slides at the end of this presentation that go over some of these very, very good resources. Breaking the cycle of emotional abuse takes courage, self-care, and empowerment. You are not alone, and there are people and resources ready to support you every step of the way toward a healthier and more fulfilling life. Rebuilding trust and forming healthy relationships after experiencing an unhealthy or emotionally abusive one can be challenging, but it is entirely possible. The journey begins with self-awareness, healing, and establishing a foundation for healthy connections. Here are some key steps to building healthy relationships. Number one, focus on self-healing. Take time to heal from past trauma and reflect on your experiences. Engage in self-care practices like therapy, journaling, meditation, or other activities that help you process your emotions and regain your sense of self. Healing is an ongoing process that empowers you to enter new relationships with clarity and strength. Number two, establish clear boundaries. Understand and communicate your boundaries early in any relationship. Healthy relationships respect personal limits and involve open, honest communication about needs and expectations. Being clear about what is acceptable and what is not helps to prevent a return to unhealthy patterns. Number three, build trust gradually. After experiencing emotional abuse, trust can be very difficult to rebuild. Take time to get to know someone, allowing trust to develop naturally over time. Trust should be earned through consistent, respectful, and supportive behavior. Remember, it's okay to take things slowly. Number four, prioritize open communication. Healthy relationships thrive on honest and open communication. Share your feelings, needs, and concerns openly and encourage your partner to do the same. This fosters mutual understanding and prevents misunderstandings from escalating. Number five, recognize and cultivate mutual respect. Respect is a cornerstone of any healthy relationship. Ensure that you and your partner respect each other's individuality, opinions, and autonomy. Support each other's personal growth and maintain equality in decision making. Number six, surround yourself with support. Keep a strong support network of friends, family, or support groups who understand your journey and provide guidance and encouragement. A healthy community can offer perspective and reinforce positive, healthy relationship patterns. Number 7, empower yourself with knowledge. That's what this whole presentation is about, empowering yourself with knowledge. Learn about healthy relationship dynamics and educate yourself on the signs of emotional abuse to avoid repeating past patterns. Empower yourself with knowledge to create a future filled with respect, trust, and genuine care. Building healthy relationships takes time and self-compassion. Remember, you are worthy of love and respect, and it is possible to have a relationship that uplifts you and empowers you. Remember, recovery from an abusive relationship takes time, but with the right support and resources, it is possible to heal and build a healthier, more fulfilling life. As mentioned before, there are numerous resources available for individuals experiencing emotional abuse or who need support. These are some key organizations and services on this page, and I'll let this sit here for a moment, and then I'll move on to the next page. I want to thank you for joining today's presentation. We talked about healthy versus unhealthy relationships and the impact of emotional abuse. Remember, recognizing the signs of emotional abuse and understanding the characteristics of healthy relationships, these are essential steps toward fostering safer and more supportive connections. I want you to remember, too, that everyone deserves to be in a relationship where they feel respected, valued, and safe. Thank you.